I haven't used this one in a while. Forgot how to turn it on. Okay, turn on and recording. Okay, there, good enough, close enough, I think. Anyway, yeah, actually use the one with the screen. I can see, can't see the screen. Not a great idea. Anyway, yeah, response to Broken Mech guy, Canada, whatever. Shame on Canada. I don't know why you guys a name like that. Seems kind of silly. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. We'll just play the video, see where it goes.
So this is a response to INMENDHAM's video, Nick is Nuts. He's responding to the Modern Mystic. I didn't watch the Modern Mystic's video, but I can't help but see these glaring contradictions in INMENDHAM's determinism. You know, first off, INMENDHAM already knows, but I'm a hard determinist. I'm, you know, philosophically, I don't see any reason to not believe that the universe is entirely deterministic, including myself and everything. But I consider myself to be a bit of a reluctant determinism, because I also think determinism...
Yeah, it really doesn't make any sense, whether we're reluctant or not. I'm reluctant to accept the fact that unnecessary suffering takes place in the universe. I'm reluctant to accept that fact. But yeah, I mean, everything points to it. It's waste and stupid, and it's because it's a poorly designed system. I would love to say, yes, the universe has a brain, it knows exactly what it's doing, and everything is going to be okay. I'd love to be able to say that, but that's not the fucking truth.
Does negate all meaning. I think that moral nihilism is inherent in determinism, and it is...
Well, that's because you're not thinking very hard. Okay? The fact is, we have a brain, we have power, we have control, we have a lot of assets. So nihilism is just nonsense. And within the scope of our control, there is stuff within the scope of our control. That's just a fact. Alright? We're not 2,000 years ago, we're not some Buddhist stuck 2,000 years ago saying suffering sucks, but, well, not much we can do about it, because I'm not going to stop having sex, and I'm not going to stop doing this and that and the other thing. We can take a different approach. We can be very careful about how we treat the sentient creatures, and we can oblige a better, yeah, we can oblige better.
Ultimately a black hole of despair and meaninglessness. The farther you pursue the deterministic philosophy, the more absurd it becomes. Ultimately, determinism is just the understanding that the universe is unfolding in an entropic process. We're a universe that is increasing in entropy and slowly running out of energy. You know, the energy is dissipating, the universe is cooling, and eventually...
Yeah, well, this is sort of a good point, and I don't see any problem with it. Again, it's the idea that none of all this is for naught. There's nothing to be built here. There's nothing to be accomplished except to redundantly live out this this soap opera of the sentient creature chasing his glory, his moment of his 15 minutes of fame. So you just have a bunch of individual organisms chasing. And the reason why the chase game works is because, yeah, they die, okay, and they impose, they inject a new game on a new player. And, yeah, you break the system simply by breaking that obligation to perpetuate the addiction. You satisfy yours, you play your game because you're caught up in it. You acknowledge the futility of it, but you still play it because you're addicted. Yeah, you just don't create another heroin addict. You just don't impose the addiction on another victim. Not that complicated, really.
Eventually everything will be still and dark, and nothing had any meaning. Doesn't matter how many Shakespeares there are, or Mozarts, or stuff.
It matters as it, I hate this word, as it accumulates through time. It matters as the fact is you can't undo it. You can't just erase it. Yes, time passes and stuff becomes history. But the fact that something exists in history does not mean it does not have meaning. I think that's just nonsense to say that Anne Frank has no meaning because she was in the past, because she lived before. What she experienced has no meaning to us or in reality, that she isn't part of the human story. And it's the whole story, the animal story, the life on earth story, the universe story. All these events are part of that story, and whether or not the universe was a good or a bad is going to be decided by that story. What is in the story? How many Anne Franks are in the story? So it's just bullshit to say it doesn't mean anything. Of course it still means something. The value still exists. And it doesn't need any person to sit there and declare the value. Okay? I mean, the race will take place. There doesn't need to be anybody saying who won. Who won will be, there'll be a finish line and somebody will cross it. I mean, it's just silly to say we have to have a witness to the race for there to be a race.
Sufferings or holocausts, none of that is going to matter. From the perspective of the deterministic paradigm. Now, INMENDHAM argues that determinism doesn't imply that you can't have things with meaning.
I mean, INMENDHAM simply states that the fact that it's all part of one system ultimately doesn't change the fact that that system has a value quanta, that it produced something, and that there's a difference between a universe that would be entirely full of animals with their guts outside of their bodies screaming in pain, and a universe where everything's having a great time and there's drunken parties all the time and it's great fun. Yeah, there's a distinguishable difference. It doesn't matter whether they begin and end. None of that crap matters. There's still a difference. There's still an identifiable, noticeable, recognizable difference, and you don't need a recognizer for it to be there. The world doesn't, this flashlight exists. I could drop dead right this second. A little aneurysm in the brain blows up, I drop dead. This flashlight still exists. It's an absolute fact, motherfucker. Okay, somebody else said there's no absolutes in the world. No, I'm sorry, it's an absolute fact. It exists. Only an idiot, a fucktard, a moron would find an excuse to deny all the evidence and say, no, it doesn't really exist. We can't be sure it exists. No, we can be damn sure. As confident as we need to be. It's more than enough evidence to convict. Okay? You idiots who expect evidence to be something just beyond all necessity. Okay? The evidence doesn't have to be you experience the victim, you experience the perpetrator, you experience being the witness, you have every single iota of evidence. We don't need that much. We have a brain, you dumbasses. We can think. We can add things up.
Universe. And I think that's a huge contradiction. Ultimately, the only way things can have meaning is from a subjective perspective. It only has...
Yeah, again, well, this is just... We've been over and over and over this. Okay, that's your fucking... You can have that as an opinion, but to say that that's what determinists must believe is nonsense. Okay? I don't have to sit there and say something doesn't exist until I acknowledge its existence. That's just stupid. Trees fall, they make sound. Whether there's a person there to hear it doesn't make a goddamn fucking difference. The tree still fell. The airwaves still moved. It's just bullshit to have this argument. We don't need the fucking witness to say the goddamn event took place. Okay? So it's just fucking asshole nonsense to say there has to be a witness to declare the universe fucktarded for the universe to be fucktarded. If nothing ever evolved on planet Earth with this kind of brain, human race never accidentally took place as part of the deterministic pageant, there'd still be suffering on planet Earth. There'd still be animals eating animals. None of that would just disappear because there was no human beings to play word games about it.
It has meaning to me, or it only has meaning to us as a species because of our shared perspective, or it only has
Oh, what shared perspective anyway? That is such a pile of crap when people start talking that way. Obviously, human beings don't have any fucking shared perspective. That's why they fucking spend billions and trillions of dollars killing each other. It's because they hate each other's perspective. They think each other's a fucking asshole. You know, just as I think you're a fucking asshole. Because you, through this perversion of goddamn simple logic, have somehow been able to escape having any accountability for the fucking suffering you impose on dumb animals that you think you somehow have a right to play with. They're just play with for your own goddamn pleasure. Fuck you.
Meaning to, you know, everything has to be from a subjective perspective in order to have meaning.
Again, I don't know, look, there's probably ways of explaining this that's just plain bullshit, okay? Water has mass, atoms have atomic weight, things have their identity and their substance whether or not we sit there and acknowledge their existence. If right now some rape happens in some dark basement somewhere and no one will ever know about it because the perpetrator is going to kill the victim and the perpetrator is going to, as he's running up the stairs to escape, is going to slip and fall down and die. And so no one's ever going to know the crime took place. The body's just going to rot in a basement to be found as little bones later, and people are going to say, what the hell went on here? And that's all that's going to be known, okay? So nothing about the crime will be known, nothing about the suffering will be known. That doesn't mean it didn't take place. It doesn't mean it wasn't fucking real. I mean, this is just a stupid fucking argument. It still had fucking meaning, okay? Sentient creature suffered. Period. I mean, period. Shit.
And suffering is especially like that. You know, you cannot argue that suffering versus pleasure has some objective meaning. Now you can argue it has some.
You can say I can't, but you're not doing it with any kind of logic. Your logic is nothing exists unless you say it exists. Nothing means anything unless you say it means something. I mean, I think that's just the height of preposterous arrogance to say we need some human around to calculate the results, to put something on a scale and say it weighs 100 pounds. No, an elephant weighs, you know, 396 pounds or whatever the I don't know how much elephants weigh a lot. But anyway, they're going to weigh what they fucking weigh, okay? Whether we put them on a fucking scale or not, they weigh that much. It's just stupid to say none of this exists unless some fucking asshole like you decides to point at it and say it exists. Bullshit.
Objectively discernible qualities, but you cannot place any value judgment on them because determinism ultimately reduces us all to cogs in a clockwork universe. It would be like...
It doesn't matter whether we're cogs or not. We're still capable of being called stupid, inefficient, broken. You can still call something broken whether it's its fault or not. Alright? Now you want to get into a game about words like evil or something. Well, yeah, then that's a bullshit word. But even that can be applied if with a little bit of rational tweaking, just to understand that what's evil is the rabid, bad psychology that would compel somebody to commit horrible acts of inefficiency. But yeah, it's not a blame game. It's just that you point at a rabid dog and you say rabid dog. You don't blame the dog for having fucking rabies, but you acknowledge the fact that it's a rabid, that it's a piece of shit, that you gotta kill it because it's gonna kill something else. It's a menace, it's destructive. We can use these kind of words, menace, destructive, asshole, fucktard, prick. We can use all kinds of words to describe a broken psychology, one that's not running efficiently, and it doesn't matter whether it's to blame or not. It just matters that it is a menace, that it is at fault, and that it can be implicated as lacking the wheels, the cogs of itself necessary to be accepted as neutral or positive. Okay, I mean, these are recognizable concepts, and it's not about blame, it's just about assessing functionality, asshole.
Literally going into your your clock workings and picking out certain cogs that are good and saying other cogs are evil, and that's it wouldn't, it's absurd.
Oh, yeah, right. So it's absurd to recognize dysfunction. It's absurd to recognize inefficiency. No, it's exactly what intelligence does. Intelligence looks at two cars and it says, well, what's the gas mileage? And what's the wear on the tires? And, how long is the engine going to last? Okay, it assesses performance and it says, well, yeah, I'm not going to buy the one that uses twice as much gas, has twice as much longevity on its engine, and its tires are going to wear out in 3 days. Why would I buy that car, right? I wouldn't buy it. I'd say, no, that car would be a menace on the highway, actually, because its tires are going to fall off in 3 days. I mean, that's all this is. It's a calculation of performance. Performance can be assessed without any personal involvement.
So I don't understand how INMENDHAM can make this this huge error in his philosophy.
Yeah, well, what? That's just such bullshit rhetoric. An error you can't quantify any better than to just say, I say so. I mean, that's all you've done here. All you've said is, I'm saying that we can't assess performance. There's no standard of performance. And I'm saying quite explicitly, yes, the standard's quite obvious. Sentience, suffering matters. Suffering's the gasoline we're putting into this bullshit. Okay, the performance quotient is, some sort of gratification and comfort and satisfaction of attractive psychology. Yes, it's all deterministic, but it's still, there's players. We have a brain. We do fly to the moon, even with determinism. We somehow find the capacity to do that. So we can refine things. We can oblige things to be refined. We've successfully put menaces in jail and prevented them from committing crimes. We have done that, asshole.
He needs to clarify that that determinism, for one thing, does negate meaning, and is ultimately...
Why would I say anything so stupid? Why would I say anything negates the meaning of suffering? Why would I say something that ludicrous, that preposterously silly? If I believed that something could possibly negate suffering, even the destruction of the entire universe somehow undid everything, then why would I give a fuck about anything? Why then wouldn't I act on my own impulses, be a selfish motherfucker, a manipulator, and a cheater? I'd have absolutely no obligation to do anything because I would just say, well, history will erase it all, okay, and the universe says it's not a crime in the end. That's just bullshit. It's still a crime. It's still, the equation and logic is still right there in front of us. I mean, it's just nonsense to play this game like somehow you have a get-out-of-jail-free card. No, you don't. Okay, the truth will be written. It won't be written by a human. It'll just be written in the fact of the circumstance. The circumstance existed, it had a substance, and that's all that needs to be. There doesn't need to be a Mark Twain to write it down in a fucking story.
An amoral philosophy, or a philosophy of amoralism, and that in the meaning part.
That is just so silly. Like I said, there's nothing. There's no connection between determinism and an obligation to believe suffering doesn't matter. There's just no fucking way you can make that argument. At least no one has made the argument, and you certainly haven't made the fucking argument in this video.
Of his mission of being opposed to suffering, etc., which is totally honorable and valid, is only valid from the subjective, speciesist, relativistic perspective.
And again, why would I draw that conclusion? Why would that make any sense to me? If cockroaches wouldn't be my species, let's say they had a more complete sentience. They were like little hoobies. And they would say, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And, they had a whole life narrative and all that kind of crap. I'd certainly be able to say, okay, that's something worth caring for. There's vulnerability there. It's been exposed. They can be harmed. They're part of the community of sentient beings. I wouldn't just discount them as, oh, I'm human and they're not human, and so therefore I don't have to care about them because I don't want to feel like sticking my penis in them, so therefore they're not useful to me, therefore they don't mean anything. That's just such bullshit. I mean, how the fuck? See, obviously you don't believe any of this stuff, okay? You're just playing devil's advocate. You're just playing some game here. You're obviously not a determinist. You're obviously not any of this stuff you say you are, because there's no reason for a determinist to do this, to do the philosophy. There's no reason to feel any obligation to erase the concept of functionality by a standard, and having the standard having something to do with effects on sentient creatures is just motherfucking obvious, common, should be common sense. I think it is common, actually, fucker.
That is in Mendham's experience. It doesn't have any objective meaning, and ultimately even his opposition to suffering, his
well, look, again, there's just no point in arguing this. If you don't think it can be stated as the closest thing that we know to an absolute fact that suffering matters, okay, then we really have nothing to talk about. I think you're just incredibly stupid. You've missed the most important fact in the universe. You are a menace. You are completely idiotic. Your brain has now been completely destroyed of all possible functionality because you've missed the lowest, most important, critical fact that any intelligence could possibly possess. You've missed the most important thing in the universe, which is recognition of value, so you are as fucktarded as a fucktard can be.
Aversion to it is a result of the deterministic workings of the universe. It's not the result of some, he was thinking outside the box. In a deterministic framework, none of us think outside the box.
Well, that's a little bit of a tricky one there. Because the fact is, people have, we're making recipes all the time, and yes, we are given the ingredients of the recipe, so we don't make the substance of the pie, but how the pie filters through us, okay, can have unique results. Now, the unique result was the product of a deterministic flow. I mean, the ingredients were put in, the product came out. But you're almost implying like there's some sort of trap, like I said, that we're all stuck being these thing. And no, we're not. I speak, I change other people. I change their ingredients. You speak, you change ingredients. That's the way it works. Okay, so what we speak and what we say is part of the evolution of logic, reason, intelligence, and understanding. I'm arguing that what you're preaching is just completely fucktarded nonsense that will do nothing productive or constructive to a logical process. It will in fact create a fucktard, okay? Not an intelligence, but a fucktard, alright? Because it's illogical and stupid. Determinism has nothing to do with the fact that meaning and substance and value exist in the universe, just as real as the material atoms themselves. These manifestations of atomic structure have substance and meaning.
And everything is ultimately the result of this entropic process unfolding. As he said, it's, we're caught in this back eddy, so we're in a temporary position of an increasing complexity, sort of a counter entropy, because we're in this back eddy. But ultimately, it's just a back eddy. And when the source of energy dissipates, the back eddy disappears, and ultimately with it, any meaning that we may have subjectively created disappears with it.
It's just silly. Again, like I said, the experience is the value. Okay, you can't undo Anne Frank by just saying, I'm going to eliminate Nazi Germany from the history of mankind. Alright, so anything that happened in those 10 years I'm going to erase from anyone's known memory or history. it won't exist anymore. Well, it's not undone. It's not, you didn't undo the event. You didn't undo her personal experience. You just didn't do, you just can't undo it. It is part of the flow of the stream. And ultimately the stream is going to have a color. It's going to have a substance, a definition. Okay, it's going to be black water, it's going to be white water, it's going to be pink, green. It's going to have a definable, tangible, real, event controlled, granted, definable impact. Okay, it's going to represent something. You're going to be able to look at it and say, this stream was better than that stream. This stream produced more good events. This stream produced more bad events. You're going to be able to judge its event structure. Okay, what took place in it, and make a value judgment that yes, this stream over here that had only one Holocaust is a lot better than this stream over here where there was 7,000 million quadrillion Holocausts. That determination is going to be a truth. Whether there's any, you know, lawyer around to sit there and say so, it's still going to be a truth. No one's going to need to argue in defense of it. It's just going to be a truth that, yeah, if we're going to have streams, it's better to have more of those streams than those streams. And that's just going to be a truth.
To argue that things have objective meaning, good, bad, outside of your own subjective perception, to say that the world is in a deterministic universe, that there exists meaning and good and evil, is a purely religious concept. You have to
no, the way you frame it is, but there's absolutely no reason to do that whatsoever. You say so. You say so. So you say that all value is a religious concept. Any time you look at the world and say there's value in the world, there's something worth protecting, or something worth caring about, or something worth jumping a grenade for, you're saying that's religion. And that's just fucking crap. That's just such a slimy bullshit tactic. Alright, I mean, we are sentient organisms. We know what pain and pleasure is. You're telling me I have to deny something I know at my very fucking core. I know it. Alright, there's no fucking way you're going to convince me there's no difference between me feeling good and me feeling bad. There's no fucking way you're going to come up with any sentence or any paragraph or any fucking volume of fucking encyclopedias that's going to make it possible for you to convince